While appearing before the Senate Committee on Security, the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission complained, they complained or that there are many cases where they have forwarded to the Office of the Directorate of Public Prosecution, but the cases were terminated without reference to them, without reference to Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission. An idea was floated as to whether the EACC should be given prosecutorial powers. And that is why I felt today I should talk about it. First and foremost, it is the contempt of the highest order and lack of respect for one to make a major decision concerning another person without explaining to that person. It doesn't take, okay, constitutionally, the powers of prosecution lies with the Director of Public Prosecution. But anything you make a decision in any organization, touching on matters of other people, especially if it is a joint job, it is always good to go back to the same person and explain why you came up with that decision. There is also the case where the ODPP had entered into an agreement with Obado, former Governor Obado, for asset recovery. They had entered into an agreement with the Obado for asset recovery. That is good. That is good because if they do that, we have people, there are some people who can even agree to spend the rest of their lives and leave their people living in a good life. But for me, hata kama ni karaha ya wiki mbili, I have to enjoy it with my family. This issue of being in jail for 10, 20 years and you leave your immediate family living in a luxurious life, whether the money is ill-gotten or whether the money is well-gotten, I'd rather spend it with my family, or we stay with my family in pecuniary embarrassment. But that is not me. We know so many people. I have a friend, a classmate, a schoolmate, who has been the commandant of committee twice. And whenever I used to visit him committee, he used to tell me that there were some Nigerian people who have been convicted for so many years, but they run their business from committee. I'm not meaning that they are the type. I'm not meaning that these are those people who call you and try to. These are legitimate business. They have Kenyan lawyers where they do legitimate business. They are Kenyan lawyers come. They enter into an agreement and whatever. Then the Kenyan lawyer sends things to Lagos, and things are divided to their relatives. In fact, these people, my classmate told me that whenever the Nigerian embassy wants to visit them, because if you are jailed in a foreign country, the legal attaché has to visit you regularly to ascertain whether you are being treated like any other prisoner. If there is a way you are being treated worse than prisoners from that country, then the legal attaché can comment on it. So I think Obado reached a situation where he saw that instead of the family having those properties and he goes to jail for several years, he entered into an agreement with the ODPP that he sells some of his properties. He sells some of his properties so that those properties, the ODPP withdraws the case. This is a case that was started by Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, and I feel, that is my personal feeling, that if they have any opinion, that they should terminate the case, or like the case of Bado, they should enter into a plea bargaining. I think the ethics and corruption, or any other, including the DCI and whatever, I think it is good for you to involve them and tell them why you have come up with that solution. ODPP is doing exactly what used to happen that led to us to have the 2005 and 2010 constitution, because the previous constitution before the 205 and 210 is that some people, especially the president, had the power to do anything without any reference to anybody on any time and whatever, and there is nothing you could do about it. He could decide this, he could decide that, but nowadays there is even something called public participation. If the DCI, or if the DCI, or if the EACC, or even IPOA, or any other investigatory body does such a thing and hands over to the ODPP, it is always good for the ODPP to come and explain. You see, they have the constitutional right, nobody can question them. But it is a sign of respect if you go and tell them, your case, we terminated it because of ABCD and whatever. Because in law, once the ODPP has terminated the case, unless you want to sue privately. But then I don't know. We used to have a section. I don't know whether the new constitution covers that. Lawyers can tell me. But in the previous constitution, even when you are doing your private prosecution, the Attorney General, who was by then the Director of Public Prosecution, would come and take over you have started your civil suit. The Attorney General, who by then doubled up as Director of Public Prosecution, would come and take over the case and terminate it. It was so funny that he would take over a case and terminate it in 5 minutes. But you know, those are people who are close to the government. So the ODPP, the constitution gives him the power to terminate any case if he so wishes, with or without explanation. But it would be a sign of good manners or something. Maybe there is a better word to say. But it is courteous. Yeah, the word is courteous. It is courteous for you to at least tell the person or the office that we terminated your case because of this and this. This thing of just like we saw the drama whereby the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission tells the magistrate or the judge that we are not even aware that Obado has entered into an agreement with ODPP. And we saw that bad picture of Obado now answering back to the lawyer representing that it is not good. It is always good for courteous. It is always courteous that they should come, explain to whichever body you are doing or how they came to that. After all, don't we have something that is called public participation? But then this is not public participation. This is something that those who started the investigation and whatever, you have to look into their morale. You have to look into their morale. They don't have to spend a lot of time doing ABCD only to be disregarded without even any reference. Now let us talk about the EACC to be given prosecutorial powers. The Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission wanted was telling the Senate that they want prosecutorial powers. The ODPP has a constitutional power to prosecute. So Uh, if the ethic and the corruption want to be given those powers. Next, we will have IPOA wanting to be given that. Next, everybody will now start being given that. But then, what happens if you want to use powers that are constitutionally given to another person? You have to go back to the constitution and amend it. And the way the politicians have spoiled have politicized the constitution at BBI, is it BBI? Eh, uh, all those things have made it such that it will take us a long time. Maybe some of us will be very old if we will not have visited Jesus. It will take us a long time to even imagine of any amendment to the constitution. So, uh, if ethics and anti-corruption wants prosecution of power, they either do it alone. Now, what I want to say is that ODPP have the constitutional power to prosecute, which means that ODPP can either do it alone while prosecution, or they can donate in writing. They can donate the powers to do that. For example, ODPP can wake up in the morning and say that all cases that has got to do with corruption, they have donated. They have donated uh, the powers to prosecute to the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission. But for us who know how the ODPP has been terminating the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, telling me that they will donate that, I don't see it. Now, for EACC to have prosecution of power, the constitution has to be changed. At least that part concerning prosecution. And as I've said, politicians have spoiled things so much that it is almost impossible to alter the constitution the way it is. We all agree that there are so many loopholes in the constitution as it is, but we all agree that it has loopholes. But since it has loopholes, changing it has become very hard. That is why if today you are to go and look at the constitution, uh, if you look at the constitution and want to change, people will think that it is another BBI, because Agwamba has found a way. Every time he loses an election, he wants a commission to investigate something and to correct something and to correct whatever. The only correction I can tell Agwambo to avoid all this comedy is that the only correction is for him not to appear on a ballot paper. Now, should the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission be granted power, then it will be doing the work of both investigation and prosecution, which means that they are working across the ISIL, which is not okay. Because of allocation of duties, we have investigations. We have investigations whereby investigation authorities such as ethics, IPOA, and so on are supposed to investigate things, and after investigating, they give it to. Now, if you do that, what would stop them from in future demanding that they also appoint their own judges to do that? But the major question should be, how would such a constitution amendment be beneficial to Mwananchi? If today, we decided that ethics and anti-corruption is given prosecutorial powers, let us say that, how will it benefit an ordinary Mwananchi? It will not. First thing is that a person who is in the ODPP who is discontinuing cases with impunity, what would stop a future person what would stop a future person from doing it while he or she is at ethics and anti-corruption. And remember, I had just said that these are the people who were disregarding you. You suggest a prosecution, they terminate it without reference to you. Now, that person who was there was born of a human being like just like you. What can stop a future director or CEO of ethics and corruption from stopping an obvious flawed case like what they are doing? As we speak, Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission and IPOA were created and powers removed from CID, which today is called DCI. This has been done for optics. How long does it take for an ordinary complaint? I just want anybody to tell me, especially those people who have dealt with IPOA and ethics and corruption. How long does an ordinary case, average case, take from the time somebody complains in the ethics and corruption and IPOA? How long does it take? Personally, I think that if there is any criminal case happening which does not fall under IPOA and which does not fall under Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, I tend to believe that if you go to the police station and make a complaint and a person is arrested and taken to court and whatever, it is 10 times faster than IPOA and EACC. EACC and IPOA in brackets, they are both staffed of funds and personnel. They are staffed of funds and personnel. Now, if you add them more responsibility, it will mean that they are supposed to employ their own prosecutors. Now, if in their investigation, the government has denied them funds, do you want to tell me that after they are given that constitutional mandate, the government will now give them more funds, enough funds? I doubt. I doubt whether the government will do that. There's going to be tough wars between EACC and the ODPP. Once you give them the prosecutorial powers, there's going to be a tough war. There's going to be places where each would claim to be the mandate holder that. Let us take an example of Murkomen with his Jukwa in Kakamega. He said that chiefs and assistant chiefs are differing with the police because of tough wars. A police officer is given prisoners by the chief, Chang'a prisoners, and the police officer feels that he or she is the one who is supposed to be bribed by the Chang'a people. So the chief and whatever is interfering, and that is why you saw, especially that lady chief who was complaining. So if we have had that tough wars between chiefs and the police, what would stop the EACC and the ODPP having a tough war concerning who has the powers to prosecute and who has not? The best way is to have a meeting with the intent to avoid a situation similar to what is happening to the National Police Service and National Police Service Commission. They are having a problem. Very many meetings have been held. They were called to State House. They were called to State House. They have been called to the Senate. You remember, was it Senate or Parliament, where the Inspector General requested journalists to be aware and whatever, and they still have not solved that. So the issue of clashes between EACC and ODPP can be handled through talks. And if they are disagreeing when there is demarcation, what of when they both have prosecutorial powers? Would they fight more? Would they quarrel more than now? I think that is what will happen.